Hello and welcome to the program. The Central Election Commission completing receiving of registration documents for the presidential elections, saying 90 candidates have put forth their names so far. 41 have been registered already. The Commission is to officially announce no later than on February 9th the final list of candidates. To talk more about this, we're joined in the studio today by Sergiy Korsunsky, Director of the Hennadii Udovenko Diplomatic Academy of Ukraine. Hello and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So, these elections, we have a record number of candidates this year. How do you explain that?
Elections, as in any other country, that's a sign of democracy. In Ukraine, I cannot recall elections which were where only a couple of candidates participated. Last one, I remember the 23 candidates. This year probably we'll have a little bit more than 40. Probably there are a kind of desire in the society to change the country, and we do have a lot of people, it looks like we do have a lot of people who think that they can do that.
Now, on these candidates, some of the candidates are not really young faces. What's your take on that? Do you think that voters might, come back to these old faces because it's reassuring, or what's your view on that?
It's difficult to comment right now on electoral preferences of electorate, because all preliminary reports about to whom Ukrainians are going to support, they are a little bit contradictory, I would say, because on one hand, it looks like people would like to see new faces. On the other hand, when we talk about presidential elections, we have to be very responsible. We have to understand that change in the highest position in the executive power in Ukraine means a lot for other branches of the parliament. And we do have to realize that people who applied for participation in elections as a candidates, and they do not have political forces behind them, political party, or a good team of supporters, they probably doomed to fail if they are somehow elected. So therefore, I think there will be a tough competition, and that's good for democracy, and that's good for Ukraine. And definitely we would like to see the very responsible choice, because that's very crucial elections. We are on the very tough moment in our post-Soviet history, and it's time to elect the real leader.
Which brings me to my next question. It is a turning point for Ukraine, is the elections, the post-Maidan elections. It is also closely monitored by Russia. How to impeach, how to block that Russia intervene too much into these elections?
That's one of the crucial issues when we talk about those elections. That's exactly the point for our relations with our connections with the former Soviet Union, with Russia Empire. This year, probably the final battle for future of Ukraine. If you just take into account, it's a funny figure, but that's exactly 365 years since the Pereyaslav-Rada agreement, so 1654, when Ukraine became part of Moscow Empire. So that's like 365.
It's quite a symbol.
Yeah, it's like symbolic figure. That means that this era of our affiliation with Muscovite state, with Russian Empire, is going to end. The battle will be very hard, very fierce, and Russia understands that it doesn't matter who is elected. I cannot imagine that the future president of Ukraine will follow Russian narrative, will continue affiliations with Moscow and Kremlin after what we witnessed for 5 years, after so many thousand people killed by Russian occupation and Russian forces. So I think that we will win in this battle, and whoever is elected. But you're right, it will be very tough and hard to distinguish where it's false, where it's truth. They will intervene. They will try to influence the choice of Ukrainian people.
And they are already begun in a way, because they're trying to send 2 observers, through to monitor the elections, and with the loophole that basically Russian mail cannot get in Ukraine, so they're sending two young women. What's your take on this?
I can't imagine. As far as I know, Foreign Ministry press secretary today issued a statement that it is absolutely unacceptable, and Verkhovna Rada confirmed that with a piece of legislation. I can't imagine how representatives of an occupying forces can be present as observers on elections. We are absolutely open, and we will welcome all other observers from any institution or country which would be interested in. But definitely we cannot have observers from Russia, as we cannot have their journalists or their propaganda people on our territory. So I would completely support this decision not to take them, even if Kurt Volker, as he issued his statement on that, thinks that would be helpful. I don't think that would be helpful. It's a matter of principle. It's not a matter of choice.
Mm-hmm. Now, these elections are also a test for Western partners for Ukraine, and Western partners will also send their observer. How important is this election, this turning point, as we said, for this European/NATO integration through this process?
I hope, and I have no doubt that it's going to happen, when Western world, EU and our partner countries will send observers. I have no doubt they will see a clear, transparent procedure of campaign and voting, and we don't want to have to cause any doubt in the West with our European choice, with our ability to elect freely and completely, I would say, in a good manner to elect our leader. So I think this is extremely important for any president of Ukraine, and therefore, in spite of the fact that probably we will see many surprises, accusations, maybe false statements, maybe some violations, because if we have 41 candidates, we have so many interest parties involved in those elections, so probably we'll see a lot of dirt. But that happens in any country.
Election campaign, I guess it's always...
Exactly, it's everywhere. Mm-hmm. I mean, we cannot, to be in a good faith to say even presidential elections in the United States, the last one, where that's clear.
Is it a good example, though?
Anyhow, that's kind of pattern.
Point, but yes.
Yeah. So but in spite of all that, I'm absolutely sure that the procedure will be clean and transparent. We already done with all the fixation of results of the elections. We remember Orange Revolution. We remember 2014. We remember all that. So I'm sure that society is mature enough not to allow this again to happen.
Now, about the process itself, the definitive list of candidates will be announced on February the 9th. So we'll have obviously more than 41 candidates now. How does it work? Is it possible that some candidates might do coalition, so they narrow down and
theoretically yes,
do a license with votes? How does it work?
Theoretically yes, but honestly saying, I don't think it's going to happen. Everything has purpose. Probably some people would like to show themselves to the society. Maybe they want to participate in parliamentary elections later. Maybe they don't have this exact goal to be elected as president. They just want like to be visible on the political landscape. So probably we will see, we will not see clear unification of candidates, but maybe before the second round we will see a kind of, I don't expect that there will be a clear victor in first round, so probably we'll have second round. In second round that will be 50-50, so that probably some candidates will endorse other candidates, will provide them support. But it is difficult, it is difficult even if you have 5-6 candidates to organize properly, say, debates or a kind of open discussion. If you have 41,
Yeah,
it's impossible. But definitely we will see. We already have in different formats. We have meetings with the candidates, open and close, in different frameworks, in different groupings, business, political. So we already have a kind of attempt from candidate side and from society side both to see each other, to talk to each other, and to understand. Is it really, you see on TV, it's one thing. If you talk to the candidate in person and you ask him a question, and you would better understand, is it real? Is he for something truly serious, or this is just a game? What I don't want to be those elections is it's look like some part of the society continue to seek those elections as a game or a kind of show. It's not a show. It is a very serious issue, very serious issue. 5 years from now, they will be very crucial. If we just calculate that the next president will be elected 2024. 2024.
Which is the deadline, not the deadline, but
not the deadline, but that's presidential elections in the United States and in Russia. So next one will be in 1 year with both our biggest partner and us, our biggest enemy. So therefore, we understand that what is happening right now for 5 years, those 5 years will define clearly, finally, future of Ukraine. That is not occasionally that President Poroshenko mentioned 2024.
Exactly. I was thinking about that.
That is why, because this year we will have a new commission, European Commission. So again, there will be elections to the European Parliament 2024. So this year will concentrate like so many things around us and in the world that extremely important that we would not spend 5 years fighting as Ukrainians has unfortunately tradition to do in between ourselves, but to unite and to go forward to Europe and to NATO.
Now I'm going to come back to the Europe and NATO part here, but you talked about this idea of certain persons going to the elections for the spotlights, you know, and for maybe further it happens, and for also a future political career. Thinking about the spotlights, and I guess you'll guess my next question, the surprise candidate is Volodymyr Zelensky. He's between Poroshenko and former Prime Minister Yulia Timoshenko. It is not the first time that we see, I'm thinking of the five-star movements in Italy, I'm thinking, you know, those kind of character who just appears with a certain speech, let's say, adapted to a certain population. What's your stance on that kind of candidacy here? Do you see the same thing happening here than in other side of Europe, or?
Let me put it in this way. I saw Zelensky personally in the meetings, so I now have a full understanding of his personality. He is definitely a talented actor, and he is definitely a talented businessman. When it comes to presidential post, of course, this is, excuse me, ridiculous to consider him as a president. But what he's doing, he represents absolute counterpart to the official elite. He represents a kind of a mirror showing to this elite that many things they do, many things they say, they are ridiculous if you consider them with humor or you consider them very critically. Maybe this is good for the society, maybe part of society, and maybe this elite will see themselves a kind of distorted picture, because you know, for some in our elite, some people who already forgot how to live in usual environment and in real life, they have to see other side of their activities, and Zelensky presents that. I don't think he will be serious candidate. I don't believe in those ratings, but it is good that he exists. It is good that he brings this kind of you know, special, very unique negative attitude toward the formalities of current establishment. That's exactly, you're absolutely right. That happened in Europe too. Many people in Europe, they try to, to show that if you cannot fight in a legal way, in a normal way, it is difficult to organize political party, to invest a lot of money, to become very well known, present, and so on and so forth. It is difficult. But in this way, through Clowns Club, you can do it easily. So probably that will be helpful for elite to reconsider themselves. That's good. But we will see serious battle in between serious people.
Now, and to conclude this interview, the main, except the EU-NATO partnership and membership, the main issues are the reforms. And the IMF is still requiring the land reform, it's still requiring certain reform on gas, and it's still requiring a bigger fight against corruption. In any case scenario, whoever wins, whoever is the candidates who wins, do you think that these reforms will continue, and how to ensure that these reforms can continue to be implemented for Ukraine to reach these goals?
This is extremely difficult question, because if we talk about our couple of years which are ahead of us, seriously, we have to pay like 457 billion hryvnias in foreign debt. That's a huge amount of money. If we are deprived from transit business with Russia, we are losing 3 billion euros, which is exactly the amount of money we spend on defense. That means that Ukraine has very serious problem with economy, and financial situation is tough. But at the same time, we know that as Ukrainians, that potential in the country is huge. You have to use this potential properly. In order to do that, the new president, doesn't matter what is his name, must have a clear picture that freedom of enterprise, completely a very tough property law, which protects property rights, including intellectual property rights, without clear reform in juridical system, in the courts, you cannot make land commercial as a commercial a part of business, because there will be endless stories, endless processes about owners against each other. So first legal reform, first proper economy mechanism which would allow society to develop, then we can see those recommendations of IMF implemented. But I do believe that Ukraine can do that. This is absolutely clear. Other countries were in worse situation. They did it, and we will do.
Thank you for this overview. It was a pleasure to have you in the studio today to talk about this situation.
Thank you very much.
That was Sergiy Korsunsky, director of the Hennadii Udovenko Diplomatic Academy of Ukraine. Thank you for watching the program, and stay tuned for the rest.